Hi, I'm Ed Z from Metcal, and I'd like to welcome you to our latest Metcal video series, where we will be discussing the Metcal product line and how we can enhance the Metcal ownership experience. In today's video, I will be showing you the upgrade path from your 40-watt MX-500 that was introduced back in 1996 to the 80-watt dual simultaneous output MX-5200 that makes up our current product line. So please sit back, enjoy our video, and thanks for watching. Hi there, it's Ed Z again. I promised you we would discuss the MX-500 and the MX-5200, which is a logical sequential upgrade. The 5200 has been manufactured since around 2011 or 12. Your MX-500 could be more than 20 years old, depending on if you were the first ones to get it or you bought it at a later date. This one happens to be in pretty good shape, with the exception of the iron. As you can see, I'm starting to show some signs of wear here. I'm actually using a non-sleeper stand, but I do have some tip storage, so there are some convenience features built in. Your MX-500 is a 40-watt power supply, which means the maximum power going to your cartridge is 40 watts. It does have a basic sleeper function built into the unit where it'll power down after about 20 minutes, providing all conditions are met. And that's solely adjustable on or off. You have no in-between. It is switchable, meaning you can only use top or bottom. If you do switch to an unused port, of course, you get your amber light. Nothing's really changed there. But let's just say it's time for an upgrade. You notice that you're not getting the performance that you need. Your thermal loads have become heavier and higher. So you want to look to what's new at Metcal. Well, what you can see here is we have the 5200, which some of you may have seen in the field. You may have seen it on demo. But let's really talk about what makes it different. Well, the first thing that makes it different is you do have a digital display. The digital display is there for many different things, but most commonly it'll tell you which port you have active. So now you could have your left port active, you could have your right port active, or the biggest feature on the 5200 is dual simultaneous operation. So you can actually have your left and right ports operating at the same time. Other things that you can see from here is it'll tell you an open error. Where on the old MX-500 you only had an amber light. You didn't really know what was going on. But this will actually tell you, because I switched to an unused handpiece or an unconnected handpiece, that I have an open error. One of the nice features of this is that the system will automatically reset. You noticed before when I wanted to reset my MX-500, I had to go in there, I had to power it off, power it back on. So your resetting is going to be automatic. Another feature that you have with the 5200 is you have the new lightweight aluminum handle. So you can see from the operator perspective, while it's similar to the previous MX-RM3E, which is the plastic handle, it is thinner, it's much lighter. One of the nicest features though is it still uses the same cartridges. So any cartridge that I could use on my MX-500, I can also use on my 5200. The primary difference is going to be the amount of power that the 5200 will drive into the load. Now if you're noticing, you could actually see the power moving up. And that's because we did build in a net power meter so that you can see the amount of power being delivered to the tip. Now that can be good for tip selection when you're trying to pick out a new cartridge, or it could also be good for diagnostics, so you can see whether you have maybe a problem with a cartridge. Every 5200 comes with a sleeper stand, and now it's an adjustable sleeper stand. So you can actually adjust the angle that you use to put your cartridge or your handpiece back into the stand and get it to be more comfortable for you. Also, one of the things that we find is the more horizontal it is, which is especially nice if you're reaching from the front of the bench to the back of the bench, it also reduces the amount of heat that radiates up into the handle. Now this handpiece has been on all day, and it's no problem to touch it up here at the grip area, which means it's going to be especially comfortable for the operator. All of our stands allow you to have both brass wool and a sponge, or if you don't want the sponge, which a lot of companies will not use, you can take these two screws out and you can get rid of the sponge tray, so your operators aren't adding sponges on their own. Now if you watch the display here, I want to show you something. This is a sleeper stand. So if I start to draw power, you can see the power meter go up. So if I go onto my damp sponge, same thing happens. As soon as I put it in the holder, it'll reduce the power to about 5%, which is going to save you cartridges, or it'll save you money over time. So by going into sleep mode automatically, that's what that will do. When I talk about sleep mode, you can also, let me get to it, you can also adjust your sleep timeout, where on your MX-500 it was fixed at about 20 to 25 minutes. On the 5200 series, you can adjust it from 10 minutes, which is the minimum setting, to 2 hours. So you can adjust it by 10-minute increments up to the amount of time that you want it to go to sleep. Now, you can also adjust the bar scale, which is 2 modes: standard, which is what we had before, which you use with the standard handpiece, or you can do ultrafine, which is if you're using our ultrafine, which uses much smaller cartridges, you can actually adjust how the graph displays on the front panel of your MX-5200. And then finally, if you hold it in, it'll take you back to your home, or your home screen, which is your main screen. So from this screen you can see that we have the left port enabled. We have 5 watts, or 5% of our power, being allotted to the system. If I pull this out, you'll see it go back up to full power. I mentioned before it'll go up to about 80 watts. So this is an 80 watt power supply, twice the power of your MX-500, which also means it can use other handpieces. Not just a standard handpiece, you can also use it with a high thermal demand handpiece, an ultrafine handpiece, tweezer handpiece, as well as a desolder gun, a shop air powered desolder gun. So all of those handpieces can be added. Again, the beauty from your perspective is, as an existing Metcal customer, and I'll show you right now, since you've probably got existing handpieces, you can very simply take your older handpieces as well as your newer handpieces and run them simultaneously. So I can come in here now, select dual output mode, and now I can use both handpieces at the same time. This one happens to have a double flat, while this one has a conical. So if I was going to use it for chip removal or any kind of surface mount activity, I could do what's very common in the industry, is to use 2 irons at the same time. That in mind, if I do remove a tip in this mode, it will automatically tell me that I have a problem. It'll give me an error, and then I'll be able to, in this case, reset my station by shutting it down, turning it back on. So the MX-5200 is, as I mentioned before, the logical upgrade if you're an existing Metcal user and you want to get the latest in power, the latest in performance, as well as the ability to use 2 irons simultaneously. And that seems to be very common now, because we're trying to save bench space. So instead of having 2 power supplies on your bench, now you can have one that allows dual simultaneous operation. As you can see now, they're both asleep. The one feature that I did not mention yet, on the 5200, the CV5200, and the MFRs, is we also have ground detection. A bunch of years ago, one of our customers contacted us because they were having problems with their bench grounding system, or their factory grounding system. And we came up with a method that allows us to look at your system ground, not just the ground to the tip, right? When we take a cartridge out, let's go back over here, so we only do one side. We take a cartridge out, the system knows that we've lost our ground to our tip. It gives us an open error. But what it doesn't detect on most systems, and all of our competitor systems are the same way, it doesn't detect the system ground or the ground at the wall socket. These systems will actually look and make sure that your ground integrity all the way back to your circuit breaker panel is intact. If anywhere along the line you have a problem, you will get a ground fault indication, and that's your way of knowing, well, first of all, you have a ground problem, and two, you will not be able to solder because the system will shut down. And why that's important is when you lose tip ground, you can now introduce a potential to your assembly, and that potential can cause damage. So we've gone the extra step to make sure that you can't solder with a Metcal product with an ungrounded station that causes risk to your products. So that's just another feature, another reason that you want to go in there and look at upgrading to your MX-5200. Thanks again. If you have any questions, please visit our webpage at metcal.com, or you can go to our YouTube channel or my YouTube channel. Just search for Metcal Man, and I actually have a very detailed video on this that shows all the features. It shows the sleep mode, it shows the ground fault mode, and you'll be able to present that to your manager and possibly upgrade to a nice new MX-5200. Thanks a lot. Be safe. Wash your hands.